So a little bit about the NHT. The NHT is a statutory body, meaning that it's an arm of government, an agency of government. It was established in 1976. And we have a mandate of increasing and enhancing the housing stock in Jamaica, and of course to provide loans to qualified contributors who wish to build, buy, or improve homes or to buy land. Our vision, as you can see there, will be ranked among the leading housing finance institutions in the world, for customer service and also our contribution to national development. And we do this on a day-by-day basis through improving the quality of life of Jamaicans by facilitating home ownership and community development. And we have a particular emphasis among our low-income earners. So how are we funded? The NHT is funded through your contributions, actually. And the contributors to the NHT falls in one of 4 categories. There is the employee who makes a 2% monthly contribution to the NHT. So those are individuals who fall under the general PAYE structure, meaning that you have an employer who is responsible for deducting that 2% on a monthly basis and paying that over to the NHT. Now, in addition to your 2% of your monthly income that the employer deducts, that is matched further by a 3% from the employer. So in total, 5% of an individual's monthly earnings is remitted to the NHT in contributions, 2% directly from the employee's salary, and a 3% that is matched and paid over by the employer. The other category of contributors that we have is the self-employed contributor. As its name suggests, that's the individual who runs his or her own business. That individual is a sole trader, perhaps, has that, business, whether it's their main business or whether it's a little side hustle that they have. Those individuals are required by law again to pay 3% of their earnings that they, however, pay not on a monthly basis, but on a quarterly basis. And the other group we have are our voluntary contributors. And those are individuals who, as the name voluntary suggests, they don't have to, but they choose to. So who we have in this group mainly are Jamaicans who have migrated overseas. They are citizens, permanent residents of other countries, but they're Jamaicans by descent still, and perhaps have some plan, some goal to either come back home to Jamaica and pursue some kind of home ownership goal, or maybe to assist family members back home in Jamaica with achieving their home ownership goals. So voluntary, because legally you have to be between the ages of 18 and 65 and you're working in Jamaica to pay contributions. So as I said, these individuals are outside of Jamaica, but they still prefer to contribute because they have some kind of home ownership goal they are waiting to realize. Not to be confused with Jamaicans who go abroad on seasonal work. Those individuals are still considered self-employed persons. Voluntary contributors are solely Jamaicans or individuals by Jamaican descent who are permanent residents or citizens of another country. So these contributions that are paid either on a monthly or quarterly basis, they are held in trust by the NHT for a period of 7 years, and they become eligible for refund in the 8th year. So as an example, in this year, 2021, the NHT would be refunding contributions that would have been made in 2013, and come next year, 2022, we will move to the year 2014 and any year prior. Now, all these contributions are refunded with an interest rate of 2% per annum. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I promise you it is. It's probably more than you will get at it's more than you will get if you would put it in a bank account, that's for sure. And it's probably more than what you would get if you invest that as well. in any other kind of instrument. So the returns on those contributions are in fact very comparable to instruments that would exist in your general financial institutions, and in most instances, as I would have indicated, is perhaps even more return than you would get from such institutions. What we do on a day-by-day basis, I touched on this earlier, we provide loans to build, buy, and repair houses, and we increase and enhance the stock of available housing in Jamaica. And we do that through either the NHD schemes that we actually build, or through partnerships with other private developers who are undertaking housing projects. And we also do generate funding for the housing construction sector, and we promote improved building systems and see how we can leverage greater efficiencies in the market. Now, the NHD is not a regulator, so it doesn't have as many powers as people oftentimes think that the NHD does have. The NHD is really just a player in the market, but we do understand that the NHD is a player with influence, and therefore the NHD has that kind of arm to its mandate where it works with other players in the sector to see how, as I say there, we can improve building systems and also create greater efficiencies. Touch a little bit on our products and services. They can be summed up in three main types or four main types of products: loans to build, buy, improve, and we also have our scheme solutions. So the NHD's maximum loan limit that the NHD provides per applicant is $6.5 million. Two individuals can always co-apply and access up to $13 million to undertake some kind of housing goal, whether it's to do construction or whether it is to purchase something on the open market. And before I get this question, let me address it up front. 6.5 million. I know sometimes we get the question as to why only 6.5 million? What exactly can 6.5 million do? What the NHD has realized is that every time the NHD makes an adjustment to our loan limit, there is a direct increase in the cost of housing. So the last time we would have adjusted this loan limit, where in 2021 would have been in the year 2019, going into 2020. Now what we did find is that we moved from 5.5 to 6.5 million, and what we realized happened in the market is that all the units that used to cost 12 million now cost 15, because there's more liquidity in the market. And there's more fund, there are more funds available to institutions like the NHD. So we have to strike a balance between the amount of financing that we provide and to ensure that we're not causing a negative effect on price movements. So it really is ensuring that we're not giving with one hand to the borrower and the market is taking it away as it relates to high prices. So we have to, whenever we make an adjustment to that loan limit, it has to be an adjustment that is based on evidence, data. When we move from 5.5 to 6.5 million, it was in keeping with the movements that we would have seen in construction prices, which were moving on average at around 20% per year. So we have to be guided by that to not create that kind of anxiety and negative ripple effects in the market. Outside of that, however, the NHD provides 100% financing for our schemes up to a maximum of $15 million. And of course, that's subject to affordability. So even though I mentioned going back a little, 6.5 million being the loan limit per applicant under normal circumstances, not everybody will necessarily access that 6.5 million. It would be foolhardy and financially irresponsible if you have a contributor whose income salary demonstrates that they can only afford a mortgage of 4 million and the NHD is lending them 6.5 million. It really tells you that day one or month one, when mortgage payments are due, that individual will of course be in default. So we have to link, of course, how much we lend to each individual based on their affordability. And affordability is determined by a combination of factors. We look at age and we look at income as well. The NHD's interest rates, they're pretty good. The best you will find on the market, ranging from a low of 0 to a high of 4%. If we were having this conversation perhaps 10 years ago, we'd be talking about interest rates of 21% and 23% and perhaps even higher. And it's good to see that not just the NHT has come down to these single digit low interest rates, but also our financial institutions too. Some as low as 6% in some instances, but averaging at around 7.5% across the board. And that's very important because the loan limit, as I would have indicated here, of that 6.5 million, is one area of ensuring or loan limits. That's one tool in terms of ensuring that affordability remains possible for individuals. But on the other hand, you have to also look at interest rates as well. And together, these two combination of factors are what make homeownership possible. General qualification criteria: an individual seeking to apply for an NHT benefit, that individual must satisfy the following. You must be a current NHT contributor, whether in the capacity of employed or self-employed or even voluntary. This point I touched on before, you have the necessary income to service the loan. Because when we look at it, $6.5 million, if you add up all the contributions you've ever made to the NHT, chances are it will never come to $6.5 million, which means I'm lending you somebody else's money. So I have to ensure that I'm responsibly lending you that individual's money to ensure that you have the necessary income to be able to service that loan. You must have made at least 52 weekly contributions, so you must have been contributing to the NHT for at least 1 year. And at the time of loan application, you must have made 13 weeks contributions in the last 26 weeks. 13 weeks roughly adds up to around 3 months. So that's where we usually end up getting, oh, I want to see your last 3 months pay slips from, not just to verify that you have income coming in, but to also verify that contributions are being deducted and are being paid over on your behalf to the NHT. The final eligibility criteria or criterion is that the individual must be between 18 and 70 years old. It was 65 up to last year, but we moved that to 70 because we realized persons are living longer. Persons do have home ownership goals still at that stage, and so we adjusted the borrowing age from 65 to 70. Talk about interest rates a little. Interest rates are pegged directly to individuals' incomes. The persons who earn between minimum wage and $15,000.99 per week, they get a loan from the NHT at 0%. 15,001 to 30,099 also at 0%. 30,001 to $42,000.99. These are weekly gross incomes, 2%, and 42,001 and above, 4%. There are some other built-in concessionary interest rate reductions that the NHT provides. So public sector workers, they get a 1% reduction in interest rates. Persons 55 and over, 2% reduction. And persons with disabilities or parents with children who have a disability, they also benefit from a 2% reduction in their interest rate. So if you look at that interest rate structure, you'll see a lot of zeros, which really tells you the majority of NHT contributors actually access loans from the NHT. 0%.
Weird.
So a point to know, the NHT offers a maximum loan term of 40 years. So an individual has 40 years or up until age 70 to repay a loan. What that therefore means is that the sooner an individual embarks on their home ownership goal, the better it is, because the more time you will have to repay that loan. And more time to repay that loan, what that means is that it translates into smaller, more manageable monthly payments. So the person who borrows or starts their home ownership journey at age 30, as in the case of NHT, 40 years to repay that loan. An individual who starts at age 50 has half that time, only 20 years. And so those mortgage payments for the individual who is 50 would chances are be higher than the individual who is 30 years old. So generally a mortgage though is a personal it's a personal thing. So you and I can be the same age, but we don't have the same income. We'll walk into the financial institution, whether it's NHT or any other, and we'll walk out with different loan terms. So many times we use one person's experience to determine what others is going to be like. So my brethren go down at NHT and then tell him, say, you can get him loan at 2%, and it might have 20 years to repay, but I go down there and they tell me something else. So it's important that every individual comes to the mortgage process with the mindset that they're going to do their own research for themselves and don't use other person's experiences to judge what the mortgage provider will tell them, because there are what you may consider minute differences between you and another individual, which translates into significant differences as it relates to monthly payments. So I always stress research is important. Ensure you undertake it. Talk to a realtor, talk to a mortgage provider, talk to someone, talk to a lawyer, talk to anyone, and find out what your own home ownership journey will look like. The NHT has our scheme solutions. I touched on them before. Those are the units that the NHT provides, that the NHT makes available. And NHT selects individuals for these units or service lots, as the case may be, under a system we call a priority index entitlement system. And I get a lot of questions about this all the time. How do you determine who is selected for an NHT scheme unit and who is not? Well, there are some variables that the NHT will look at. Firstly, preferences given to the person who lives in the parish where the housing development is being undertaken, or the individual who works in that parish. So we look at that first and foremost. You either live in the parish or you either work in the parish. Then we now look at, and I get this is sometimes controversial, but listen to me closely. We then look at the number of points that an individual has. And these points are derived from weekly contributions and also their current income. So for every 52 weeks you contribute to the NHT, you get 20 points. And individuals get additional points based off their income as well. With a low income person, the lowest income band between minimum wage and $15,000.99 per week, getting 110 points, and the person at the upper end of our income bands, 42,000 and one and above, getting 70 points. So remember I spoke about emphasis is on low income earners. So in this point structure, you see a bias towards the individual who is a low income earner, as opposed to the person who is at the upper end of the market. And the thinking is that for many low income earners, it's NHT or nowhere else. And that's the truth. Many of them aren't able to pursue any kind of, many of them can't walk into a bank and say, hey, I can have a mortgage. Perhaps won't happen. So it's the NHT or no other institution. If you also look at this point structure, you will also see that, okay, if you're saying 20 points for every 52 weeks you contribute, the longer you contribute, the more points you have. So therefore, it kind of favors a person who has been contributing longer. If you go back to why the NHT was created, you will understand why. The NHT was created at a particular time when a lot of persons were getting old, retiring, and not being able to achieve any kind of home ownership goal. So in the development of the NHT, the framers and the architects of the NHT had this particular group in mind. And so you will see that kind of slant towards the person, rewarding, for want of a better word, the individual who would have contributed to the NHT longest. Fast forward to that's 1976, 45 years ago. So fast forward to 2021, the NHT today realizes that there is an inherent bias in that. And so the NHT uses a tool that we call a special benefits order that allows us to reserve units in every scheme for certain categories of individuals. So the NHT can reserve between 10 to 15% of units in every scheme for public sector workers, for young adults, those are individuals between the ages of 25 and 40, for persons with disabilities, So those three groups get priority in terms of the allocation of NHD schemes. Persons 25 to 40, persons with disability, and public sector workers, so a lot our teachers, our doctors, those individuals. I must stress something though. NHD schemes are very, very, very oversubscribed. Give an example. We advertised about 2-3 years ago in St. James, a development that had 1,500 units, quite a bit. We got 15,000 applications. What that means is that 1,500 people will walk away happy, and not get that mark, but about 13,500 would be very, very awesome. So similarly, to bring it closer to home, recently we advertised Silver Sun Estate in St. Catherine, where we put out, I believe, in the region of 150 to 200 units, and over 7,000 persons applied. Jamaica has a challenge where housing demand and housing supply is concerned, where there are more persons demanding housing than individuals, than the actual housing solutions that are available. So one of the things the NHG would have done in the last 4 years is to look back at our housing program and to see how we can ramp that up and produce houses at a much faster rate. So if you follow the media, you follow the newspaper, you follow our social media pages, you would realize the NHG is advertising much more units at a quicker turnaround time than usual. That's because it's a concerted effort to bridge this demand that has built up over time. It's going to take us some time to chip away at it. Truly, if you look at the housing construction market now, NHG is responsible for about 80 to 85% of the number of units that are built every year. We're doing a whole lot more, but we do understand that we do have some way to go, and we continue to look, as I said, at our housing program to see how we can speed it up and produce more houses at a faster rate for individuals. The specific products again, the house lot, individuals can get $2.5 million to buy a piece of land that's being sold. Again, 2 persons can co-apply and get $5 million. And that is your $6.5 million loan that can be broken out into here, where you can get $2.5 million that goes towards the purchase of the land, and you have your remaining $4 million for construction. I know a lot of people may think construction is such a heavy undertaking, but to be honest, that's the best way. We have to be creative now as individuals as we approach the housing market, to look at how best you can use the resources being made available either through the NHT and through other institutions to stretch it further. It's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to try and buy a housing unit that's completed already. I know all the work is done for you already. But if you really want to stretch that dollar and stretch it much farther, what you can buy with 6.5 million versus what you can build with 6.5 million, a world of difference. Open market loans, 6.5 million there for individuals, again, can apply and access up to 13 million. And the NHG has a cluster housing program that allows individuals to pool their resources. So a minimum of 3 persons and a maximum of 18 can, and we can have cluster that has 9 lots, minimum of 3 lots, maximum of 9. And each lot can have 2 mortgages, which is how we end up with 18. So individuals can identify a piece of land, buy it, and have that subdivided and put the infrastructure in place, get their own title for it, and then undertake their construction. So I mentioned the wisdom in building as opposed to buying. And here's one route where an individual can pool resources with other like-minded persons, buy a piece of land, have it subdivided. I mean, you can put your wall at the end of the day to separate you from the other person, but you will be able to make that purchase, have it subdivided, and do your own construction. So there's strength in numbers. So for the person who may think, okay, I don't want to go construction alone, I need help. here's an opportunity under our cluster housing program that you can partner with other like-minded persons, and that's very important because the construction process is involved, and so you have to ensure that whoever you're partnering with is of the same mindset as you and will stick to it as well. There's a build on own land for persons who have land already, and that land doesn't have to be in your name. Once it's a registered title for it, can be in your parents' name, grandparents' name. Once the title holder can write and give permission for you to construct on that land, the NHD will accept that. And it's $6.5 million that you can go straight to doing your construction. And the construction loan, that's the difference between the $2.5 million for the lot and the $4 million remaining for construction. For persons looking to make improvements to their property, the NHD as a second loan offers $2.5 million for those persons. Why only 2.5 million? Because we still have so many persons who are still not yet homeowners, and so we give the first-time borrower more than we give to the person who has a home already and is just to make improvements to it. And you can use that to either, extend the property, put in solar panels, different kind of undertaking to improve your home. The NHD has some enablers, we like to call them. So contribution refund towards deposit, CRTB for short. Remember I told you about you getting that refund every hold it for 7 years, it becomes available for refund in the 8th year. If you are, however, buying a house today, and I mentioned we're refunding 2013 today, but if you're buying a house today, the NHD will make 2013 up to 2020, no, in 2021 up to 2019, 6 years available to you ahead of time to assist with different aspects of the home ownership process, whether it's paying for the deposit, paying for your legal fees, paying for your valuation report or your surveyor's ID report. And that's important because many times individuals can find the financing between the NHD and their other mortgage provider. But many persons start the process and they go, oh, I didn't know I need a lawyer, I didn't know I need to pay for a valuation report, I didn't know I need a surveyor's ID report. And the refunds not yet due can assist in terms of offsetting those costs. For the individual who is in our lowest income band, earning between minimum wage and $15,000 weekly, they contributed to the NHD for 7 years. The NHD makes a grant of $2.5 million available to that individual. $2.5 million free money. The condition is that the individual must be taking a loan, and that $2.5 million is really to top up the loan. And there's a disability grant of $150,000 that persons with a disability, or if you don't have a disability, you live with someone who has a disability, you can access that grant. And it really is to assist in terms of retrofitting the property to make it more comfortable for the person who has a disability, but the person must be living in the household. And your cousin down the road or your friend down the road you want to apply for it for, no. We also have other enablers where parents can assist children in accessing, pooling their benefits. So a parent can assist a child under what we call Parent Assist 1 by passing on those points that the parent has to the child. And that really allows the child to stand a better chance of being selected because the parent, assuming they contributed longer than the child, would have more points than the child. And I must point out that this whole business of NHD points is only applicable to selection of NHD schemes only. No other time topic of points should come up. Only for persons who are applying to live in an NHD scheme. So a parent can pass on their points to the child and increases the likelihood for the child of being selected for NHD scheme. Or on the Parent Assist 2, this is now where you're making a purchase on the open market. That parent who would be eligible for that $6.5 million loan limit don't have any plans to use it either because they're a homeowner already or they just don't have plans any at all to use it. Can pass on that benefit to a child and legally adopted or biological child that is. And that child can pool that 6.5 from the parent with their 6.5. And what we will do here is to credit both mortgages to the child and will of course use a child's age in terms of determining mortgage tenure, which is really a positive because the child, of course, would be younger than the parent. So they will have more time to repay, and more time to repay, as I've indicated earlier, translates into smaller, more manageable monthly payments. The NHD has other financing options. We have a joint finance mortgage program. So the 6.5 million you get from the NHD, you can pool that with funds from any of these participating institutions. We have about 10 of them: NCB, Sagicor Life, Scotiabank, Scotia Building Society, VMBS, JN, CIBC, First Caribbean, JNB, and First Global. You get the 6.5 from NHD at NHD's interest rate, and the additional amount that you need from any of these institutions at their interest rate. We really operate as a one-stop shop, so you don't have to come into NHD to borrow the 6.5 and then go over to VM and borrow the additional amount. You can just go into VM, say, I want to access my NHD benefit with the loan that you're giving me, and VM will reach out to us. It's a 24-hour turnaround time before we can approve that, and you can move ahead in terms of accessing that NHD benefit with whatever else you're getting from VM. Similarly, when it comes to repayment as well, you don't have to repay the portion that you get from NHD at NHD and VM at VM. No, you just make one payment to VM, and we on the back end will work out who gets what. There's also microfinancing for individuals who earn below $42,000 per week. They can access an additional $1.5 million through any of our 11 participating credit unions. And that can be used for a host of home ownership or housing related expenses, from paying property taxes to finding a deposit, paying for valuation reports and all of that. As I said, 11 credit unions participate there, and it's for persons who earn below $43,000 per week. Final slide here, just some things I want you to consider as you approach or think about home ownership. You want to think about where you can afford to live. A realtor will tell you location, location, location. Not all locations are equal. So the housing realities that we see in Kingston and St. Andrew are vastly different from the housing realities that we see outside of the proper area. So $12 million in Kingston and St. Andrew probably can get you, I'm being very honest with you, an old fixer-upper, probably one-bedroom room. That's the truth. Maybe a two-bedroom. No, I probably would be pushing it. But if you go over to St. Catherine with that same 12 million, you get a two-bedroom, one-bathroom with a land space that you can expand on. So the realities are very different. If you go over into Clarendon, you probably get even more. So you have to look at where you can afford to live. I know we all want to live in something that says hill, or, you know, on literally a hill overlooking the rest of the city. But the reality is that that's oftentimes a journey. You have to start with what you can afford. Be realistic about it. Don't know that you're only earning X income, and when you go to your realtor and you go to your financial provider, they tell you, okay, X income can get you X in mortgage. Look within your means and start there. Don't sit back and cuss your system and say, I saw them fight out, man, and man to live nice, and the man live nice, and all of that. No. Start with what you can afford. If the land is all you can buy and do the construction later, start with that. If the one-bedroom is all you can start with for now, start with that. Home ownership is a journey. We don't get there in one go. My personal experience, I looked at where I wanted to live. I realized it was going to cost me X, and I set out a 5-year plan. And you would think, oh, you work at MHD, you have it easier. Housing is a challenge regardless of where you work, regardless of how much you earn. Well, not entirely regardless of how much you earn. For some persons, it really isn't about that. But for the normal average person, it really is going to be a challenge, which requires you to have a plan. And as I said, I have a 5-year plan. Year 1, year 2, pay off all the credit card bills, pay off all the debts, pay off the loan here, and just get my finances in order. Year 2, year 3, 4, 5, was just saving. I saved everything. Every travel claim, every Every bonus saved everything, everything. And I say that to say it's not going to be handed to you on a platter. And this is not a problem in Jamaica. This is a global problem. You look at the US, you've seen how many times the housing market has crashed there. If you look in England, similar challenges. People are struggling to find where to live. It requires a plan. It's not buying a car. It's not buying groceries or you're going to the supermarket. I like that one. I want that one. No, you're going to have a plan to get to where you want to get to. And everybody's plan is different. For me, it was 5 years. Probably for you, it will be 3. Probably for somebody else, it will be 2. You're not all starting from the same point. Maybe for somebody else, it will be 10. But be realistic about it and have a plan to get there. Your first home should not be your only home. Challenge you have in Jamaica, persons are buying houses at 50 and at 55. Of course, it's going to be hard to buy a house then. Remember, sooner you do it, the better. And first home does not become your only home. When you start earlier, start it where you can, and you can change that out over time. As the family changes, you move from a single person to being a couple. You can move from the 1 bedroom to the 2 bedroom. You can move from living on the flat to start living on the hill. But have a plan. You want to save up to 20% of the value of the purchase price to cover your deposit, the fees, and the closing costs. And these are not fees and deposit really based off the mortgage institution only. There are transfer tax that needs to be paid. There's the valuation reports that I said need to be done. There is a stamp duty that needs to be paid. So you have to do your research, find out what these costs are for the unit, and you want to save 20% of that. Do your research. I stress that. All our mortgage institutions now have a mortgage calculator on their website. Go on it, punch in those figures and see what it's telling you. Shop around, use a real estate agent to help you with the search. And again, if you're borrowing in excess of the NHD amount, visit your financial institution so you can access, joint finance mortgage with the NHD amounts and any other amounts that you're looking to borrow. And finally, and I can't stress this enough, engage professional services, whether you're building, whether you're buying, whether you're improving, engage professionals. Don't let the man who just measure up and say, yeah, man, we can do the X amount for you, and then you start the process and you realize the X amount going to you now really cut it. Engage professionals, engage an attorney. Don't say, no man, VM has an attorney, nothing will go wrong. NHD has an attorney, nothing. No. VM's attorney represents VM's interest. NHD's attorney represents NHD's interest. And your attorney represents your interest. So I know sometimes you try to cut the cost by saying, okay, I'll forego the attorney, but a word to the wise is sufficient. Don't. And that's my presentation. I think probably we'll hear from the other presenter and then we can take any questions or answers. Questions that you may have a little bit later. But thanks very much for listening. And I hope you learned something new today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berbick. And in the interest of time, we'll just head over to our second presenter right now, Miss Shamala McGregor. Ms. McGregor grew up in Portland and attended the Titchfield High School. She then relocated to Kingston, where she attended Excelsior Community College. There, she completed a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management with a major in accounting. She has over 10 years experience in client services, including 5 years in microlending and financial services. She's a longstanding member of the Port Antonio Police Youth Club, where she has served over 10 years and has held various positions, including secretary, events coordinator, and vice president. Since relocating to Kingston, Ms. McGregor has become a part of the Excelsior Community College Social Outreach Club, where she has led and participated in voluntary activities to include annual Coastal Cleanup Day, annual Senior Citizen Streets, visits to Golden Age homes, and she also serves as a tutor at the Excelsior High School. She recently achieved one of her lifetime goals of becoming a homeowner. She's driven, focused, and service-oriented. Let us welcome Miss Shamala McGregor.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to just add to what Mr. Berbick covered. Boy, I'm telling you, that was a very detailed presentation. I don't know, a lot of what I will be presenting on was already mentioned in his presentation. So to be honest, I think I'll just touch on just the basic stuff, as in what will be needed when you're coming in to say VMBS to get your pre-qualification done, and how we will go about starting the mortgage application process. Because honestly, Mr. Berbick covered a lot of it. I think what we can do is we can just have a discussion afterwards, and then you guys can ask your questions and then we can answer them, right? Okay, so let's get started. I am trying to share my screen. Okay, got it. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Okay, great. So my presentation kicks off with highlighting the objectives, understanding the financial principles of own ownership, going into some of the benefits. Well, I won't go into the considerations of when buying because Mr. Berbick already covered that, and also the steps to buying a home. So I'll just go into the benefits and then we go straight into the mortgage application process, all right? All right, so from some of the benefits of home ownership, of course, includes security, knowing that you would have owned your own property, and there is also, sorry, hold on a little bit. Presentation got a bit mixed up here. All right, so my presentation is not playing along with me, so let me just freestyle. So some of the benefits of home ownership is it does provide security in knowing that you own your own property. And once you own your own property, after a while, that property will be good to you if you're good to it. When you own a property, after a while, it starts to appreciate in value. So over the years, whatever it is that you purchase your property for, you will start to see that with the demand, especially on the market now, homes are appreciating even faster than before. So for a lot of persons, home ownership is a long-term goal. So it is something for you to work towards. It is something that may drive you. As we know, there are maybe some challenges, as was identified by Mr. Berbick earlier, with what is happening in the market now. But I would say to you all, don't be discouraged, because it is really a fulfilling experience once you have started and completed the journey. All right, so I do have the steps to outline. Search it. I'm going to go into the mortgage process, the mortgage application process. So in becoming a homeowner, as was previously outlined, you first want to plan for it. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. You have to save towards it, you have to budget, and you have to put a plan in place. As Mr. Berbick mentioned earlier, his plan was over a 5-year period. So you too have to see, based on what you're earning now, based on what you're looking to purchase, based on the area that you're looking to buy, what are properties in the areas that you are looking to buy, what are the costs. Of course, you must be contributing to your NHT benefit, because that will become very handy. It will help you in reducing your mortgage payments, because if it is that you're getting a straight mortgage from a financial institution and not utilizing NHT benefits, then your payments, your monthly payments would be higher, being that the rates would not be subsidized. Mr. Berbick went through and he did explain what the differences between the NHT rate and the financial institutions. So at VMBS, currently, we're offering interest rate for first-time homeowners at 6.95%. So if your name does not appear on a title and you have never purchased a property, then you can access your mortgage at 6.95%. And of course, this will be joint if you have NHT benefits and the mortgage will be subsidized. So you will get a portion of the mortgage at the NHT rate, depending on what bracket you fall in. If you fall in the 0%, the 2%, or the 4%, which is determined by your income. So you will get up to 6.5 million from NHT at the rate that you qualify for. And of course, based on your income, you will get the difference from VMBS. We finance up to 97% for first-time homeowners. And that 97% is inclusive of the benefit that you will get from NHT. So let's say you want to purchase a property for $10 million. As a first-time homeowner, we would finance up to 9.7 million of that 10 million, but it would be dependent on affordability. So as long as you're able to afford it, we lend you up to 9.7 million. Of that 9.7 million, 6.5 million of it would be from NHT if you qualify for the NHT, if you qualify for NHT benefits. So once you have gotten that 6.5 from NHT, then the difference will be at the VMBS rate, which is 6.95, being that you're a first-time homeowner. If you're not a first-time homeowner, we will still give you a mortgage. Excuse me. The rate for persons who are not first-time homeowner, of course, it varies. So we have rates beginning at 7.45 for persons that are not first-time homeowners. And for people that are not first-time homeowners, you can access up to 95% financing. We also provide mortgages for persons that are living overseas. So let's say you are living in Jamaica, a parent is living overseas, a sibling, a spouse, whomever, and you wish to join with that person to access a mortgage, we also facilitate that. If you have a partner, a spouse, a parent, whomever overseas, and you wish to join with them and apply for a mortgage, you can do so, and you can still utilize your NHT benefits. If that person overseas is also a contributor to NHT, you can join your NHT benefit there. Okay, what did I miss? Yes, so we have different people will have different goals. You have some persons that are aspiring to purchase a home. You have some persons that are aspiring to purchase a land and build. So we do facilitate that as well. Now, if you wish to purchase land, we will finance up to 90% of the land. That will include the NHT benefits. For NHT, if you're purchasing land, there's a breakdown in the amount that you will be able to access towards the land. So if you're purchasing land, then NHT will lend you up to 2.5 million. So of the 6.5 million that you would be eligible for, the NHT will lend you up to 2.5 million. And of course, when you come over to us at the financial institution, we will do the assessment. And once you can afford it, we will lend you the difference up to 90%, right? The rates remain the same. Well, for NHT, your rate remains the same, whatever it is that you qualify for, whether 0, 2, or 4%, that will remain the same, whether you're purchasing land or if you're purchasing a house. At VMBS, if you are purchasing land, then the rate does vary from if you're purchasing a house. All right. After you've purchased the land, you will want to build on the land. So of course you can come back to us again. You can go to NHT or you can come back to the MBS and we will join with NHT just the same. After you've purchased the land, you will then be eligible for 4 million at NHT. So it's basically what would be left from what you got to purchase the land, right? So that 4 million you will still have access to for construction. Again, you can come to the MBS, you will get the 4 million at the NHT rate, and we will lend you the difference. You will, of course, you would have to get what is called a bill of quantity done. You would have to get your plan drawn up and get it approved by the parish council. So when you have your bill of quantity, it will tell you the cost, and we will finance up to 80% of the cost of construction, which will include the NHT benefits. All right. Okay, so I am going to now move into what are the required documents to get what is called a pre-qualification assessment. Because once you approach the financial institution, we do what is called a pre-qualification assessment. The pre-qualification assessment outlines what is required for you to access the mortgage with us, and will also determine how much you qualify for based on your current income and expenditures. So when you come to the financial institution, the documents that will be needed, you know, I'm so sorry guys, I had a presentation right before this one, and I think I have my slides mixed up. I am so sorry. So I just have to be freestyling. All right, so when we're doing a pre-qualification assessment, what is needed for the pre-qualification assessment? We would need your last 3 months pay slips. If you are paid fortnightly, 6 months, 6 weeks, sorry, 6 pay slips. If you are paid weekly, 12 pay slips. So you have to cover at least 3 months. If you are commission paid, we will need pay slips for a year, because then your pay would fluctuate and we would have to average out 12 months to get your monthly income. We would need your ID and your TRN. And if you have already gotten your eligibility letter from NHT, that will basically tell us what rate you qualify to access your mortgage with. We will also have to do for you a credit report. A credit report is very critical to the process because, of course, when you come, we don't want to use just the information that is before us, and there are additional information that once we start processing, we uncover this information, and then you're not able to access whatever it is that we had told you early on. So we do a credit report because the credit report usually brings forth your history, your credit history, which is very important when you're borrowing, right? The credit report will show us all the loans that you currently have that you're servicing. It will also show us your payment pattern. It will show us, it will tell us basically what kind of creditor are you? Are you a good creditor? So that we say, yes, this person does repay their bills and we won't have a problem once we give them a loan. That is a very important, that's a very important part in the lending process. Once you have submitted all the documents required, so we need your last 3 months pay slip, your ID, your TR, and you will have to do a credit report, and we also need a job letter. Once you provide us with those documents, we are able to complete the pre-qualification assessment. We will then tell you how much it is that you qualify for, and we will issue you that pre-qualification letter. Whenever it is that you go on the market and you start searching, once you approach a realtor, they will ask you for a pre-qualification or a pre-approval letter, because they basically want to see what you qualify for, so they know which direction to look, so they know what to send to you. You don't just want to be in the market and you're on a wild goose chase because you don't know what you can afford. You're looking at all these properties, you start falling in love with properties, but you go to the bank, you really can't afford it, you're heartbroken, you're distressed, and you just want to give up. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So seek, as Mr. Berbick had mentioned before, seek professional assistance and advise. The mortgage process, to be honest, it takes a lot. but it is worth it. It is worth it. When I called someone and I said, who is this? I called Stevenish and I said, Stevenish, your mortgage is approved. People break down, they cry, they jump, they scream, because guess what? They're one step closer to getting their keys, to being able to push their own door. A lot of people are purchasing properties for various reasons, of course. People are purchasing properties to live in now for themselves and their family. People are purchasing property as a form of investment. You know, people doing Airbnbs. If you can afford it, if you can purchase a property, rent it out, that's rental income that contributes to you building generational wealth. But again, that's another story, right? So it is a very fulfilling experience working in the field and also experiencing for myself. I wish home ownership on all of you. Trust me, all of you. I think that's pretty much it for me. We do have some renting and buying disadvantages, but the conversation never really took us there. So I guess we can now open the floor for any questions that you guys have. I am willing to answer.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. McGregor and Mr. Berbick. You both have been representing your organizations well. So at this time, there are some questions in the chat. We're gonna start there. All right, so Mr. Berbick, are you still here? Hello?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. So somebody in the chat is asking this very good question, Mr. Berbick. Who is the target buyer for Roosevelt Towers? Are there any out as yet?
They aren't out as yet. They are coming out probably in another month or less. Who is the target buyer? Anyone who can afford it, to be honest. But I must, and I've been cautioning individuals, and Ms. McGregor will tell you, properties is location, location, location. And when you look at certain locations, it gives you an insight as to what it will likely cost. I don't know the cost for Roosevelt as yet. I haven't seen the approved selling prices just yet, so I can't tell you directly. Think about where it is located. New Kingston, smack in the middle of the corporate area, near to all the wonderful amenities, and you know it's going to be at a particular price point. You know, yeah. That's as much as I can sensitize you to it from now, so you're not surprised if you see a particular price. And as I said before, it's not just Jamaica. If you look at the US, housing in Manhattan versus housing anywhere else in New York is going to be different. When you're in the capital, there are certain variables that are factored in. Housing prices are really a function of not just construction costs, but what are property values in that particular area. And based on the construction activity and based on the value of other properties in that area, you're going to find some locations having some prices versus others. So don't have the approved prices, as I said, just yet. Unfortunately, I can't tell you, but I think I give you enough of a hint.
And also, one point to add is that, so with mortgages too, mortgages are tailored. So it's not a one size fit all, it is tailored. So of course, it's going to be dependent on your income, your age, your benefit with NHT, if you're joining with someone, if you have a parent that is giving to you their benefit. So it's not tailored. So you should also refrain from just using one person and what they afford or what they got to judge what you may be qualified for or what you can access. It's best to come in and speak with the professionals.
Awesome. So this leads right into the next question. Is there a maximum number of persons that can join together to purchase one home?
I leave to Ms. McGregor first to give what was VM's
All right.
conviction there.
So with them, I think we go up to eight people that can be on a mortgage. But as far as the NHT is concerned, you can only 2 people with key benefits.
Okay, so if there are 8 people on the mortgage, all 8 are contributing to the mortgage?
Yes, all 8 people will be contributing. So it will be, because last year I did a mortgage and there were 8 people. What happened though is that where NHT is concerned, if all 8 people have NHT benefits, we usually advise persons to say, one, we're going to look at the person who has the most benefit with the least expense. So if of the 8 people, there are 2 people on the mortgage that qualify for 6.5 million at 0%. Let's use those 2 because of course it will give you a lower repayment. And we always want to do what is in the best interest of the customer. As far as the repayment goes now, we will then give you most times a salary reduction or standing order that is used to service the mortgages. So if all 8 people want to be paying, we do salary reduction and or standing order respectively, and break down the repayment respectively, because then that would be something to decide between the people that are on the mortgage to say one person can pay 2,000, one will pay 15,000, one will pay 7,000.
Okay. Okay, lovely. All right, Mr. Berbick, this one is for you. Where can people find the eligibility letter request form? That's on the website, or you just have to come in?
Unfortunately, our website is in maintenance mode now, so only the key applications persons are able to access right now. But you can always send an email to wecare@nht.gov.jm. In fact, if you just send your last 3 pay slips, a copy of your NIS card, a copy of your TRN card, and a copy of your government issued ID, along with the 3 pay slips, then that would suffice a request for an eligibility letter. And you can always send that directly to wecare@nht.gov.jm.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, Mr. Berbick, could you explain some more on the home grant? So you have to earn 15,000 or less to get the grant?
Right, it really is for our lowest earning contributors who earn between minimum wage and $15,000 per week. So, and why we do this is that even with the best set of circumstances, because of those individuals, their purchasing power is a little bit weaker than the average person. So even looking at the best set of variables as it relates to income and age, what we find is that those persons are only able to qualify for a mortgage of, at their best, 3 million, 3.5 million. So even when we added that grant of 2.5 to it, some are still not at that 6.5 loan limit that we are at. So it is just our way of increasing the purchasing power for low income earners. As I mentioned at the start, when you look at, part of the mandate of the NHT is that we should have some form of emphasis towards that group. So we give them the 0% interest rate, and we also make available that grant of $2.5 million to them as well.
Okay. Another question, I guess I don't know who will be able to answer this one. So, when you're going to the mortgage list, you see like a 300 and something thousand from NHT that will be applied to your mortgage. Why can't the mortgager get that in cash? Why is it that the bank has to decide what is done with that amount?
I don't know if Ms. McGregor has a better grasp of the question than I do. I'm trying to understand. Is it the NHT's? I'm still trying to understand what that 300 and something is. I'm not sure. I don't know if that person could give a little bit more.
I think they're referring to the 5% that is calculated and the amount that is disbursed, for the 6.5 million, the 6.8.
Oh, okay.
Why can't
that's
cash?
Also, why can't it be cash?
Yeah, why is it that the bank gets to decide what is done with it?
Oh, Mr. Berbick, please tell them why NHT send that to the bank. All right, so let me tell you guys. So what happened though is that when when that that 325,000, it is actually calculated in the total amount from NHT, you know. So when we are doing our assessment and you qualify for 6.5 million from NHT, in the calculation we actually work it out to 6,825,000 that you get at the NHT rate. So it really is. I don't know why it is not sent to you in cash, but it is actually calculated as the full amount. So it does reduce further the amount that you would pay at the VMBS rate.
Okay.
I'll take that as my homework to go find out why we don't average in cash, and I'll be happy to share it with you.
Okay, great. All right, so we have another question for Miss McGregor.
Miss.
Is the mortgage interest rate negotiable?
Negotiable. So I would say not exactly. To be honest, the 6.95 that we have going right now is a special rate because we are actually offering one of the lowest mortgage rate on the market at this time. Other institutions are offering mortgage rates up to 14%. You have 9%, 8%, which I think 8% is really the standard rate on the market. So with us offering for first-time homeowners 6.95%, that is already a very good rate based on what is out there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Horace Collins has his hand up. VP Horace, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Great and detailed presentation, Mr. Berbick and Miss McGregor. The first question I have is in regards to for persons who are self-employed. I think this is to Mr. Berbick. What do you use in terms of for proof of income?
Proof of income, we generally look at the bank statements. So generally, we always ask person, and I think this is not just an NHT thing, but I think it's standard across the board. We generally encourage prospective mortgagors to put money in the actual bank so we can see money is coming in and out of that account, so we can develop some kind of pattern as to what income looks like. Because outside of that, it would perhaps be asking for a company's books, and that perhaps is maybe a little bit too invasive. So the bank statement, looking at deposits and expenditure, and generally just asking that individual for an income and expenditure statement usually suffices for the self-employed person.
Okay, thanks. A few more questions real quick. In terms of for the 100% finance schemes, right?
Right.
It's the 0 to 4% interest that is applied for these schemes as well?
Standard interest rate, yes, except under certain circumstances where the amount that is being the cost of the housing unit extends beyond 15 million. The NHT may have to look at some kind of alternative arrangement, but under normal circumstances, it's a standard 0 to 4% applicable interest rate based on the individual's weekly income that is used to determine at what rate the individual accesses that benefit or that loan.
All right, thanks. Final question for you, Mr. Berbick. In your 5-year plan, you mentioned getting rid of your debts. Are debts affect well, is the NHT loans affected by debts?
Generally as part of the loan application process, we do have that income expenditure statement. But as it relates to extending it beyond that to look at credit report, the NHT does not require a credit report for individuals who are borrowing 6.5 and below. But the individuals who are borrowing above the 6.5 up to the 15 million, the NHT may. So it's not necessarily it's not mandatory, or for want of a better word, we may request it. But generally, if we look at what we call your debt ratio, which says you're able to what, and I think, I don't know, for VM, it's probably 33 and a third for you as well, Ms. McGregor, 33 and a third.
We are at 45%.
Okay, so we look at your expenses to your income, and once you're within that threshold and we're comfortable with the information that we've provided, and there's reason for us to, you know, have any doubts about it, we generally don't ask for that credit check. But no credit report, 6.5 and below, above 6.5 million, the NHT may require one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Can put in the chat or raise your hand. In the meanwhile, I'll ask another question. So as you know, nowadays, with lots of jobs, you know, new ways of earning income, there's a lot of non-traditional income now. How can persons who, you know, have many sources or streams of income apply that to their amount that they're going to come into the bank with? Like, besides my pay slip from my 9 to 5, what does the bank want to see for my additional income?
All right. What is very, very important is that the income is being passed through a bank account. We must be able to trace that income. For VMBS specifically, we will look for at least a year. We want to see bank statements for at least a year if you have additional income, because again, we will look at the consistency of the income before we consider it. And then for a year, we will go through and we'll do an average to say what will be added to your 9 to 5. Or even if it is a case where a lot of people now have unconventional jobs, I mean, non-traditional jobs. So again, persons that are self-employed, it was mentioned earlier, I think it's very important for persons to keep proper records. And it is important that your business, if you have a business, your business is registered, because your business will be considered where your source of income is coming from. So we want to know that it is a legitimate business. We want to know that it is functioning. We want to check to see when we pull up, because when we are doing a loan approval, our adjudicators, trust me, we do what is called a deep dive. Because when persons are self-employed, we don't want to know that somebody just get up and come and say, "I want a shop around the road." Yes, you have a shop around the road. How are the finances from the shop being managed? Everybody come in at the shop, come drink one bag juice and eat one cheap chips and take out $500. That doesn't mean that the shop is turning over a profit. We can't track to see what business is like for the shop. And we cannot just, as Mr. Berbick said, when we're lending you money, it's really people money. So we have to ensure that once we are giving you a loan, we have to do what is called due diligence. We have to ensure that we are giving you the amount that you can afford and not any amount that is to burden you. We don't want people to be mortgage hungry. Is that the term, mortgage hungry?
If not, we'll work it. We'll develop it this evening and use it.
Right. Where you do qualify for the mortgage, but when you get the mortgage, you can't pay the light bill at the house, you can't pay the water bill, you can't buy food. We don't want it to be that case. We want it to be a case where you do access a mortgage, you're still able to go to a movie, you're still able to provide food for your family. So that is why when we ask you to complete what is called an income and expenditure sheet, and then when we're doing our assessment, we look, as Mr. Berbick had mentioned, we calculate your debt service ratio, because we want to see, based on what you're earning, we're not going to take over 45% of what you're earning to be going towards mortgage, because we do know that even though you want a mortgage, you also have to live, right? So for persons that are self-employed, persons that have additional income and other streams of income, please ensure that your businesses are registered. If it is a business that is consistently growing, you really want to ensure that you're paying taxes to, so you can get your NHT benefits. Because if you come to us as a self-employed person and you want to, I usually say, ask persons, are you contributing to NHT? Because it is really a benefit to you, right? So you want to ensure that you're paying your taxes and you can get a TCC, a tax compliance certificate, when we send you over to NHT. So you want to ensure that your business is registered. You want to ensure that all income from any income from any additional jobs, any additional stream of income is being passed through a bank account. That is very important. Even if you get the money in hand and you put it in the bank account with one hand and take it out with the other, the record is there, and that is important.
Very, very important. And to add to that point, it's similarly for NHT. Oftentimes they find persons who come in and they want the full 6.5, or they're doing, a scheme and they want up to the 15 million, and they realize they're 1 million or 2 million short, and they go, oh, me also do this on the side. And it's too late then. We can't consider it, because the law says once you're earning any additional income, you have to declare that, and you have to pay, the requisite statutory deductions on it. So if those statutory deductions aren't being paid on that income, in the case of the NHT, we cannot consider it, because we need to see that pattern develop, that it is consistent, it's legitimate, that it's not, to use young people term nowadays, and a chop somebody and get the money there, but it's legitimate money. You have to ensure that, it's above board. And, Ms. McGregor says in the case of NCB, in the case of VMDS, oh my, it must pass through a bank account. In the case of NHT, we have to see you declare that income and pay the statutory deductions.
Okay.
So someone is in the chat is asking if a financial statement will suffice. Yes, a financial statement is very important, because if you are running a business and the business is registered, a financial statement will indeed be required. And it will be a financial statement from a chartered accountant. And you would have to get financial statement for at least 2 years. So when I mentioned earlier that you really need to be keeping proper records, this is where those records will come into play, because once you approach an accountant to say, I would like to get a financial statement, they're going to require your documents. An accountant will, especially a chartered accountant, will not affix their stamp or signature to any work that cannot be proven. So this is very important, right? So once you come in, you have a registered business. Make sure the income is going through a bank account. Make sure you're keeping proper records so that you can get a financial statement drawn up, and that accountant will also be able to prepare what is called an income verification letter. The income verification letter is basically going to be the document that will come after they have prepared the financial statement to say the business is earning X amount of money and Miss McGregor earns 17 million from her business. I'm speaking it into being because one day it's going to happen. And the income verification letter will speak to the amount that you earn from the business on an annual basis. So they all go hand in hand. The proper records keeping, the bank statements will lead to you getting a financial statement done by a chartered accountant, and they will also prepare for you what is called an income verification letter. So yes, that will suffice. Very, very important.
Okay, great. Mr. Berbick, I think this was on one of your slides, the banks that offer joint mortgages with NHT. Somebody is asking to put up that slide again.
All right, let me stop sharing.
Yeah. In the meantime, VP Horace, you can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. McGregor, I'm not sure if this is something VM does, but for example, for persons or for businesses who might want to acquire a complex that is used for rental purposes. So it's a complex that houses rentals. What is needed to facilitate this business to acquire this kind of property?
So a business wants to acquire a property for rental, as in residential rental.
Yeah, so it is currently occupied with rentals, but the owner currently wants to get out of that business. So the owner is selling.
The owner is selling. All right.
Yeah.
So it can be from two aspects. It can be a commercial loan or it can be a residential loan. So it depends on what the property is zoned at.
You're mute, Miss McGregor. You're just muting. Oh, she's on the phone.
In the meantime, for the person who asked about the participating institutions, I put up that slide. So they're NCB, Sagicor Bank, Sagicor Life, Scotia Bank, Scotia Building Society, VNBF, JN, CIBC, First Caribbean, JNB, and First Global.
I was new.
Yeah. You were answering about the commercial. You said it could be a commercial loan or a mortgage, depending on what.
Right, it can be classified. So it would still fall under a mortgage, but it would just depend if the property is zoned as commercial or if it is zoned as a residential property. And of course, if it is a case where you are purchasing this property solely for the purpose of renting, it will definitely be commercial. So of course, the business would have to be registered. The business will have to have all the necessary documents, the financial statements, the bank statements, the business registration documents, so that we can do an assessment on the business. We'll also have to do a credit check for the business just the same. So basically the same assessment that is done for a person will be carried out on the business, except for the fact that we wouldn't be looking at on bank state and pay slips, but we'll be looking at financial statements to see the profitability and the sustainability of this business. The business, of course, will have to be in existence for at least 3 years, because we would need to assess at least 2 years of financial statements.
Okay. And the 6.5% at VMBS, Miss McGregor, is it's like that's a permanent rate?
It's a special offer that we have going at the moment. We have it going until the end of the year. We've actually had it going for about a year and a half now. And that is, of course, because, you know, there's a lot of competition on the market. We know that people are really trying out here to become homeowners. So this is why we keep extending it, because the demand is there for it.
VM's fees are high though.
VM fees are high. Oh my God.
They're on the higher end. You guys are fees are on the higher end.
What led you to that conclusion?
Because I check around, VM fees are like 700,000, whereas NCB and JMMB are like 300, 400 something.
No. Okay, so let me correct that real quick. The fees are not statutory. None of the fees are statutory. All our fees, as with all the other financial institutions, are done on a percentage basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the cost of the property that you're. Huh?
No, I was just agreeing, it based on the value of the
right.
unit.
So it depends on the value of the property that you're purchasing. And trust me, VNBs have the lowest rate. Ask Mr. Berbick.
The interest rate is good, but the fees are not good.
The fees, and you know what? We even have special going on the fees now. We have reduced. Huh?
Yeah, I was about to say, probably Miss McGregor can waive some of those fees, because I know VM to be flexible.
Listen. Just last week we had a new offer come out on the market where we're reducing the processing fee. Because, all right, so let me tell you, to be honest, I said it early on. When it comes to home ownership, it takes a lot. And it is not something that you're going to get up one day and say, geez, I'm going to buy a house today because I'm a landlord. Now agree. It's not going to work, guys. It is something that you have to plan for. You have to plan for it. You see what they when me do my mortgage, trust me, you know, you see, I work in the field, so I prepare myself. I know what to expect, and it still seemed a lot. You understand? It still seemed a lot. It does take a lot. And to be honest, it's not just because I work at VMBS, but we really are offering some of the best rates and best prices on the market. Trust me. Come talk to me. I'll give you an email, I'll give you my telephone number. We can talk off here. I promise you.
Okay. All right. So
Secretary Bijou,
yes.
I just wanted to let Mr. Berbick know I sent him a message on the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Someone is
All right, thanks.
I guess anyone can answer this one. Does the mortgage have to be insured, and how does insurance affect the mortgage?
Yes, the mortgage has to be insured for in its entirety for the entire period of the loan. So where insurance is concerned, there are different options, right? So if it is a case that you are purchasing a detached property, we have what is called Peril Insurance. And we will give you the option to apply your private life insurance to cover the peril on the property. However, if it is a case that you are purchasing a strata property, then we do not give you that option. We at VMBS, we provide what is called a strata debt insurance. And that is basically where not the property that is insured, but the mortgage that is insured. Because what happens is that when it comes on to a strata property, we can't exactly, well, we can't insure one unit. Because you know that somebody back wall is somebody front wall, somebody house top is somebody floor. And if there's a damage to it, then we can't claim on an insurance of that type. So we insure the mortgage to say, God forbid, there is something happens to the complex, then you don't have to worry about the mortgage because the mortgage will be taken care of. The strata association, though, should come together and get insurance to insure the actual property so that, God forbid, anything happens to the property, you, the owner of the building, all the owners of the building can claim on that insurance. There are two insurance. There's the Peril Insurance, the strata debt insurance, Peril or strata debt insurance, and then there's life insurance. Your life must be insured because you are responsible. And at all costs, when we lend your people money, we have to get it back.
Okay.
It's similar for NHT as well. With the strata versus the detached units, we insure for the mortgage and not necessarily the property. And similarly, life insurance and peril insurance is required. For the NHT, however, they are mandatory, the NHT only mortgages, meaning that we incorporate life and peril insurance in your monthly mortgage payment. So you would not need a separate arrangement if the NHT is your sole mortgage provider.
Oh, yes, and that is a good point. So we do, in some cases, we do give you the option of making the insurance payment. You can either make the payment monthly, or you can make the payment annually. So some people may choose to make it annually. You know, you get only a bonus, so you can cover the insurance easily when you get the bonus versus increasing the monthly payment. So we do give you that option also.
Okay. Mr. Berbick, for the cluster housing, right? So people, can I and of my friends come together and buy an apartment complex? Would that be considered cluster housing?
It wouldn't be to buy. Cluster specifically involves buying up the land and then doing the construction after. So you wouldn't be able to buy an apartment complex, but what you'd be able to do is buy land and build your own little complex thereafter. Right.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions in the chat?
One quick question, Secretary. Following up on that question. So does that mean each person coming together will get their 2.5 towards the land and then further 4 million towards building? That's
very much correct. So, and that would allow you to, if you want to engage one set of service providers, for example, an architect who's going to say you're doing you're building on, you've divided it into 5 different lots. So you're building 5 different structures. You can hire one architect that can do one design for all of you, rather than, you know, I have my own architect, you have your own architect. It really is a way, as I mentioned, of cutting the cost and stretching that financing that the NHT provides a little bit further for you. Your strength in numbers.
Thank you.
All right, guys, final opportunity to ask questions. Going once, going twice. All right. Since I'm not seeing any more questions, Colin, okay, you can go ahead, Colin.
Hi, good night. So actually joined the session a bit late, but I have a question in particular as it relates to the, apart from the cost for the property, what other additional costs will you incur? And as it relates to the, when you're choosing in terms of a financial institution, what other than the interest rate you normally would look at?
All right, some of the other costs that you will look at. All right, so we use a rule of thumb to say you want to have at least 20% of the cost of the property to cover the opening and closing expenses. You will have deposits. You have to make a deposit on the property, and that can range anywhere between 5 and 10% now. You will have to get a surveyor's ID report done. You will have to get a valuation report done. You will need to get an attorney to represent you in the sale. Mr. Berbick did say, you know, VMBS attorney protects VMBS interest, NHT attorney protects NHT interest. So after you have gotten the opening cost covered, which is basically the deposit, your surveyor's ID report, your valuation report, and your attorney fees, we have also what is called the closing cost. The closing cost covers the processing fee with the financial institution, the mortgage registration fee, and the processing fee, mortgage registration fee,
Transfer tax.
and the stamp duties. Stamp duties. So the processing fee, mortgage registration fee, and the stamp duties. And the closing cost is estimated at 5% of the loan amount. That 5% is also included in the 20%. So it's not a separate 5% from the 20%, right? But just to give you a figure. So if you're doing the calculations and if you're breaking it down, when it comes on to the valuation report, it is calculated at a percentage of the cost of the property as well. Surveyor's report, everything is calculated at a percentage of the cost of the property. So we will never be able to tell you that, oh, you need to have $2 million, or you need to have 700,000. No, we will never be able to tell you that, because of course it's going to be dependent on the value of the property that you have chosen.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Berbick and Ms. McGregor. It has really been an excellent session. We thank you both so much. You have both represented your organizations well. Mr. Berbick, you had a very detailed presentation on NHT and the realities of buying a home, explain all the intricacies and all the processes, and we really appreciate that. Ms. McGregor, we appreciate your presentation for answering all our questions, explaining the mortgage process. And we thank you both so much for giving, well, as you know, Rotaract is a club for professionals age 18 to 30. We have some visitors here who might be past that. But we thank you so much for giving us all this information, all these steps to own our own homes. We hope you enjoy the rest of our evening, and we hope, if anything, that some of us may be your clients in the future. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I look forward to hearing from all of you. So don't worry, I'll guide you through the mortgage process. I'll give you my email address. You can reach out to me. I'm on leave right now, so save it until next week, Tuesday. But don't worry, I'll help you through the process. And I tell you, I want to make a homeowner of all of you, or to all of you.
Put the email in the chat.
All right, so I'll put my email address in the chat, and I see that some of my colleagues are members of this group. I see Devani, and I was really invited by Shireen. So thank you guys.
To all of our guests and our members, thank you also for coming out and for listening, for making this session what it was. All our guests, I see some persons, some other Rotaractors, friends of Rotaractors. I see my friends here, Daisy and Alex. Thank you so much for coming out. I hope everyone learned something new, and I hope you guys all enjoy the presentations. Also, Miss McGregor's email is in the chat, so please write it down and reach out to her when it's your turn to own your own home. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Good evening.